Welcome, and thank you for trusting us with this really remarkable stack of material today.
It's pretty incredible stuff.
We are opening up an article that details something that sounds, well, less like a strategic business pivot and more like a full-blown corporate panic attack
That's a good way to put it.
happening inside what we all thought was the undisputed leader of the AI revolution.
Exactly. We're looking at a report titled OpenAI Code Red, Inside the Panic Over Gemini 3 and Mark Chen's Counterattack.
Right.
And the central theme is this. How did a period of, comfortable, almost monopolistic control just dissolve into an existential emergency for the company?
And it all happened so fast, right? This is all unfolding in December 2025.
Incredibly fast.
So our mission here is to really understand how Google's launch of Gemini 3 just shattered that assumption that OpenAI was untouchable, and what drastic internal changes CEO Sam Altman basically ordered in response, and what this high-stakes, frantic counterattack means for the AI tools you use every single day.
Let's get into it.
Okay, let's start with the facts, because the numbers here don't lie. What defined this OpenAI code red? What was the immediate trigger that set off all the alarm bells on December 1st?
It was a clear, just undeniable performance gap. It was instantly visible the second Gemini 3 was released.
Okay.
We have benchmark data here from El Marina, which, for anyone who doesn't follow this stuff daily, is basically the industry standard testing ground.
The gold standard.
It is. It's constantly updated by the whole research community. And this data, it just clearly showed the momentum shifting away from OpenAI's models for, the first time in years.
Okay, so let's unpack that slip.
Yeah.
Where exactly did the competition overtake them? I mean, what does the data show?
So look at the core metrics, starting with just text generation. Gemini 3 Pro, it immediately jumped to rank 1 in text performance. Its score was 1492.
And where was OpenAI?
OpenAI's best model at the time, GPT 5.1 High, was down at rank 5 with a score of 1461.
Now, that might look like a small margin to some people.
Right, but in high-stakes AI, a 3-point difference in that range, that often translates directly into higher latency, more errors, and just a worse user experience.
So a measurable slip in the basic chat function, but where it must have gotten really painful is the creative side. That's where people are often willing to pay a premium.
Precisely. Gemini 3 Pro is also rank 1 in vision with a score of 1324, but the really damning details are in the specialized creative fields.
Like what?
Well, in categories like text-to-image and complex image editing, the report says that top OpenAI models don't even rank in the top 10 anymore.
Wow. Not even in the top 10.
Yeah, and the source material specifically calls out Google's Nano Banana image generator.
Nano Banana. It's a great name.
It is, but it was aggressively stealing the professional creative user base away from DALL-E.
Okay, so that quirky marketing name aside, the data is serious. The momentum shifted statistically. How did that translate into, real people leaving?
It translated into panic, pure panic, because it showed a massive migration of attention.
What were the numbers?
Google's active users jumped from 450 million to 650 million. And that's just between July and October of that year.
Wow.
Now, OpenAI still holds the numerical lead with roughly 800 million weekly users, but that delta is shrinking so rapidly. If that trend continues, their lead is just gone in a few quarters.
And that brings us to the core issue. And it's not really technical, it's economic. The full stack problem. This is where that competitive dip becomes the existential crisis you mentioned.
Absolutely. The performance dip is like the fever, but the economic structure is the disease. Google owns the full stack.
Everything.
They own the silicon, their own tensor processing units, their TPUs. They own the cloud infrastructure where they run it all. And crucially, they own distribution through Android and Chrome.
And OpenAI, what's their situation?
OpenAI is, they're essentially leasing the machinery they're trying to conquer the world with. They're renting huge quantities of specialized GPUs from Microsoft.
So when you're burning cash on that scale just to lease computers,
Your margin for error becomes zero. It's just nothing.
it totally changes the competitive playing field.
It does. Google can afford to use Gemini as a loss leader, to just bleed money on compute costs, because that investment protects their multi-billion-dollar search monopoly.
The luxury OpenAI does not have.
Not at all. They have to make every single $20 subscription count. And that structural difference, it means a minor competitive setback for Google is a genuine existential crisis for OpenAI.
That context just sets the stage perfectly for the internal meltdown. I mean, if the financial pain is that sharp, it must have hit the company culture immediately.
Oh, absolutely.
How did that economic pressure translate into what Sam Altman in this memo called rough vibes internally?
Well, the memo Altman sent was famously raw. It just completely got rid of the usual corporate feel-good talk.
Right.
And admitting to rough vibes is, as the source here notes, it's Silicon Valley code for morale is in the toilet.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It was fueled by that realization that they were losing ground to Google after years of being on top. And this admission, it was immediately followed by a ruthless strategic decision: the slaughter of non-core projects.
What were the casualties of this code red? I mean, they had to be big projects to make any real impact on the burn rate.
They were. Work was explicitly and immediately frozen on 3 major areas. First, Pulse, which was their really ambitious personal assistant project.
Okay.
Then specialized health agents, and finally, new shopping tools. The directive was singular: stop diverting your best talent and resources to these sci-fi projects for 2027.
And focus on today.
And dedicate every single ounce of compute and engineering talent to fixing the day-to-day product that pays the bills right now.
But why are those specific projects so resource intensive? Why does freezing them signal true panic?
Well, take Pulse, for example, the personal assistant. To build a truly contextual, proactive AI assistant requires massive, constantly running inference power.
That's a huge drain.
A huge drain on compute and on the company's best engineers. Freezing it is an admission they were too focused on the future and, they forgot to polish the basic tool people are using today.
Altman's memo also had that phrase, temporary economic headwinds.
Yeah.
Even with the word temporary, that must have been terrifying for employees to read.
It's highly suggestive. I mean, when you're an AI powerhouse, you're supposed to have an infinite money glitch, right? Thanks to all that backing from Microsoft.
Yeah.
The implication of economic headwinds is that even that funding stream is feeling the strain. And in that environment, you start building for the future and you become laser focused on survival.
Which brings us to the elephant in the server room, monetization. Is it inevitable? Are we going to see ads in ChatGPT?
The business reality suggests they are very likely, if not guaranteed. The burn rate for training and running these models is just astronomical.
And again, the economics.
Exactly. Unlike Google, OpenAI can't subsidize those costs with a massive search ad monopoly. They have to find profitability all on their own.
And the reports we have are confirming more than just rumors, correct?
That's right. Users have already spotted new lines of code in the Android app referencing specific ad libraries. The reporting also mentions internal testing of various types of ads, including, high-value online shopping placements. The key detail here is the projected cost per click, or CPC. Estimates are reportedly around $6.91 for high-intent terms.
This is very lucrative ad real estate.
Very.
But that kind of high-value monetization, while it's necessary for their bottom line, is usually the starting gun for the decline in user experience, what Cory Doctorow famously called the Enshittification Cycle.
That's the tightrope they're walking. The source lays it out pretty clearly. A platform starts as this fantastic user-focused tool.
Then it becomes a great business for the company.
And then, it inevitably degrades into a billboard, a way to extract maximum value. The code red is, in part, an attempt to delay that final fatal stage by making the product so good again that users happily keep paying that $20 a month, maybe even if they see an ad here and there.
Okay, let's pivot to the product itself. Because the feeling online for the last few months has been, wait, is ChatGPT actually getting worse?
That narrative, it's not just a perception, it's a direct consequence of their safety practices.
How so?
It stems primarily from the aggressive implementation of reinforcement learning from human feedback, or RLHF. That's the process where humans fine-tune the model to make it safer.
And the unintended consequence of all that tuning is?
Overtuning. Users report these frustrating refusals where the model just won't answer a harmless or slightly tricky prompt.
Right, it ignores your custom instructions.
It ignores custom instructions, and it adopts a tone that feels, condescending, or as one user put it, like a moralizing lecturer.
Yeah, that's a perfect description.
It's the classic trade-off. More safety can mean less utility, less creativity.
So the company realized that if their tool feels like talking to an HR department, people are going to ditch it, especially if Gemini 3 is now seen as faster and maybe a bit looser.
Exactly. Fixing this cold tone, stripping away the layers of that safety tuning sludge that was hurting the utility, that is a specific and immediate priority of the code red. They have to restore the product's personality or the migration will just continue.
To really understand the psychology here, the competitive response, we need to meet the man leading this counterstrike, Mark Chen, Who is he? Why is he the one in charge of this crisis?
Mark Chen is the Chief Research Officer, the CRO. His background is fascinating. He's described as a former high-frequency trader and a professional poker player.
Well,
So he's a personality who thinks fundamentally in probabilities, in competitive strategy, in calculated bets. His take on this whole crisis is less panic and more just competitive fury.
he has a quote in the report.
He does. He just said, "We hate to lose."
Simple as that.
Mm.
So, what is the technical counter-strategy to Gemini 3? Google clearly won the current battle of incremental updates and speed. Where is OpenAI placing its big bet?
Well, Chen acknowledges they lost the current skirmish. He argues that while Google won this round, OpenAI is focused on the long arcs, on the next paradigm shift, which is reasoning.
Reasoning.
Yes. Chen claims OpenAI has massive pre-training muscle and internal models ready that could match or even surpass Gemini 3. And the only reason for the delay is this huge bottleneck created by post-training and safety protocols.
So instead of just making small improvements, they're betting the farm on a huge leap forward, a step change based on complex problem solving.
That is the bet. And the biggest outcome of the code red memo is the answer to whether they can actually deploy that muscle fast enough. Altman promised an immediate release, a new reasoning model launching next week.
Wow, next week. That is a massive high-stakes gamble to try and instantly regain the narrative.
It's huge.
Can you give us a concrete example? What does a true reasoning model have to be able to do that our current models can't?
Chen provided a really specific, complex math problem he uses for evaluation. The problem is creating a random number generator mod 42 using generators modulo primes less than 42.
Okay, that sounds technical.
It is, but the principle is simple. Current models, which Chen calls System 1 thinkers, they rely on pattern matching and faster call. They just guess. So they fail this test because it requires derivation.
And what does a true reasoning model, a System 2 thinker, do differently?
It has to stop, think, and derive the complex solution. You can think of it like a human process. System 1 is your reflex. You instantly see a cat in a photo.
Right.
System 2 is the conscious effort. You stop, you check the GPS, you analyze the traffic, and you calculate a totally new route to get around the congestion.
So OpenAI's immediate release is a bet that this new model will deliver that critical step change, that it will show genuine, verifiable reasoning.
That's the whole game right now.
And if they deliver true System 2 thinking, that would restore the magic and the narrative. But this code red isn't just about code. It's also a defensive move against brain drain, the talent war.
Absolutely. The article describes the battle for researchers as just vicious. Chen mentioned that famous story of Mark Zuckerberg hand-delivering soup to OpenAI researchers.
Wow. Really?
Yes, in a direct effort to recruit them away. The dynamics are brutal. Meta has practically unlimited money for salaries. Google has the proprietary TPU pods.
And OpenAI only has the mission.
Right, and that mission only works if they are actively winning.
So freezing projects and launching this high-stakes model is also about what you might call the soup defense, restoring that internal confidence to stop the talent from leaving.
Precisely. You keep your top researchers by feeding them victories, not just lunch. The project freezes are painful, but they're necessary. You can't have your most brilliant minds building a shopping bot when your core product is cracking.
They need to restore confidence in their ability to ship paradigm-shifting tech, or the talent exodus just becomes irreversible.
That's the fear.
This whole situation is the classic innovator's dilemma, just playing out in hyperspeed.
It is. OpenAI is fundamentally caught between these three competing, almost impossible forces.
What are they?
1, they have to monetize with ads to pay for compute, but that decision degrades the product. 2, they have to ship faster than ever to beat Google, who, remember, successfully merged Google Brain and DeepMind into a single killing machine.
And 3.
And 3, shipping too fast degrades quality and risks a fumbled launch that could be fatal.
It looks like a complete deadlock.
Yeah.
How does a company break free from that?
The next few weeks will be the pivot point. If this new reasoning model launches next week as promised, and it restores the magic, if it delivers a true step change in performance that users can actually feel, then the code red will be seen as a brilliant, necessary course correction.
And if they fumble it?
If they fumble the launch, or if the model is just another small improvement, the migration to Gemini will solidify. And in that scenario, they risk becoming the Netscape of the AI era.
The company that showed everyone the future but didn't survive to rule it?
Exactly.
That is a phenomenal breakdown of the strategic decisions being made under this immense pressure. It boils down to a fundamental tension. maintaining that innovation edge versus the brutal, immediate need to pay for the massive scale of that innovation.
It really shows that in this space, even a company that was the, undisputed protagonist of the story can find itself suddenly and violently playing defense against a full-stack, well-resourced rival.
We will certainly be watching to see if that new reasoning model launches next week and whether Mark Chen's bet pays off. But for now, here is a final, provocative thought for you to consider. If the core AI technology is rapidly becoming a commodity, and the only way a startup like OpenAI can retain users is to avoid the aggressive monetization that competitors like Google can afford to subsidize, can any single AI company truly win this war without fundamentally changing the internet's current ad-based business model? Think about that tension between necessity and user experience.